Hi, welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Talk Special Economic Zones. I'm your host, Ainsley Brown. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how zones have moved primarily from being enclaves, basically cut off from the rest of the domestic economy, the host economy, to being much more integrated ecosystems that interact much more than they used to with the domestic territory, the rest of the economy. Before the enclave model for zones, the primary objective was, of course, employment. That's still a major objective of zones, of course. But that was the primary thing, just roll out the jobs, which would then lead to exports. So most of the zones were based on what they call the export processing model. That had, of course, had to change, particularly based on changes that happened at the World Trade Organization level, where you could no longer subsidize um, exportation. Your fiscal incentives couldn't be centered around um, exportation. You had to change that. So with that change, zones have then started to evolve with a lot more integration, a lot more connection, a lot more linkages with the domestic economy, and the value or the expectation of what zones do has changed with that in terms of delivering social value, not just employment per se, but and exports, of course, but also other things in terms of, you provide office space where a doctor's office could be located in a rural area, for example, um, or restaurants or food. And of course, there are the zone models where the entire city is a zone, like, for example, in Shenzhen, China, and in other places. So zones have really evolved and basically are no longer these enclaves that are they may be walled off or fenced off, but there is far more socio-economic interaction with the domestic economy uh, in terms of linkages with local businesses in terms of inputs into their production in the local economy, or even inputs into the zone production, and even in the services industry. Not just so it's not just about manufacturing. There would be some level of linkages. You could have a zone that's a port, and particularly container ports, they thrive on throughput. The more cargo they get going in and out, the better it is for them. So the more locals or in the domestic territory outside the zone are producing, all the better for them as well. Um, so zones are looked at and have evolved away from that walled off enclave export processing model to far more of a ecosystem look, a far more um, away from simply looking at it as just an economic driver. It's better to say it's a socio-economic driver, because it's looking at skills training and skills development, skills upgrading, based on building out new capacities, new capabilities that the country would not have had before. A very good case study in this is Bangladesh, for example. Basically, in terms of the garment sector, Bangladesh is well known for its garment sector, and there are manufacturers of garments in and out of zones, and their entire industry sparked from one company. And that one company, um, basically, people learned from that company, left, did their own business, and others, and so on and so forth, and it just built and mushroomed into the massive industry that they have now. But they had to import those capabilities at some point. So they had foreign investors that held foreign equipment, foreign know-how, which they eventually made their own and added their own flavor, their own improvements, their own innovations. And then, of course, their industry has mushroomed as it is, and they're a very dominant player in the garment sector. right around the world. As you can, look at any piece of clothing that you wear, sure that you have something that says made in Bangladesh, right? So that just shows you how you can grow your capabilities by using zones, and zones are not just, let's just drive exports, let's drive employment. Yes, those are very important, but also uh, you can look at it from a wider perspective these days, particularly how zones are being used and how they're integrated. Much more resources are being sourced from outside or inside the domestic territory, so that there is that linkage. And the goods and services are wide ranging when it comes to how the zones and the domestic economy interact. So if you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe. Leave me a message down below if you want to see me do a particular episode, and I'll get right back to you.